Wanted to thank you for joining us tonight. It is a pleasure having you with us. We are very grateful again for Charles to be with us. Normally Vanessa is with us, but she couldn't be here tonight. She is our volunteer with CCMF and she will return next month. Charles Fair has been a practicing lawyer for 30 years. He founded Fair Legal because he's passionate about helping others, ensuring that their rights are protected and they are treated fairly. Fair Legal deals with criminal, family, civil litigation matters. Charles is generously donating and volunteering his time with CCMF Alberta to deliver a monthly webinar on common topics of concerns to our population. He aims to serve, namely men struggling due to intimate relationship breakdown, and also people who love them. CCMF Alberta is committed to meeting men where they're at so they can feel heard and validated and have conversations. They help equip men to manage stressful situations, rebuild their lives after relationship fails, stay connected with their children. We recognize that providing mental health support for men leading to optimal parenting outcomes, reduction in family violence, and lower rates of suicide. Please keep in mind this is educational offering. This is not legal advice. We do love to have your questions, but keep your Q&A a little more general as this is on YouTube in the next 48 hours, and we don't want people recognizing your situation. Charles, it's up to you.
It helps if I unmute. So great. Thank you very much, Catherine. And I'm just going to share my screen here and we're going to be good to go here. So tonight's topic is, how to protect yourself when your ex lies in family court. And there's nothing more frustrating as when you are you just want to have a family, you just want to spend time with your children, and you're just dealing with lies and more lies, and that can be very frustrating. So tonight we're not going to be talking about what I do as a lawyer when I'm cross-examining somebody in court, or the rules of evidence. That can be a little technical. And unless you're the guy who's in the hot seat at the podium, it's probably a little boring, just the way it is. Oh, in any event, so let's get on with this. What I'm going to try to do is talk about the big picture, what you can do to protect yourself from lies, and how to essentially basically live your life in a way that you're going to be able to hopefully get your family get back with your kids and overcome those lies. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to talk about false allegations and how to safeguard your reputation and your rights when you are in court. And we're going to talk about credibility and how you establish that credibility and how not to lose it. We're going to provide you some legal strategies and some tools to protect your parenting rights and your personal integrity. So, now, false allegations, it seems to me that false allegations in family court are more common in high conflict separations. And maybe they're high conflict because of their lies or because they're the false allegations. I don't know, that's maybe a chicken and egg problem. It's either false allegations are a symptom of it being high conflict, and maybe really what's going on is there's a lot at stake, and people are feeling they've got to do whatever they can, and they're going to cross that line and start making false allegations. If there's one thing you can take away from this today, is that two wrongs never make a right. If the other person is making false allegations, you don't deal with it by making false allegations against them. The last thing you want is a judge saying, a pox on both of you. Get out of my courtroom. You're not. Neither one of you are going to like what I'm about to do. So, second important, but anyways, I get ahead of myself here. I get excited about this stuff. So we're gonna go through these slides. I apologize if they seem a little out of order. We're going to talk about how at the end of the day, we're going to give you some tools about how to deal with this stuff. So obviously, lies and false allegations can certainly impact your custody, your parenting time, and even your livelihood. I mean, if somebody's making a criminal allegation against you, well, then you got some serious issues, and that might obviously is going to affect your ability to work. So. Now, remember that when you're dealing with a family law situation, you got to remember what's most important here. And what's always important when you got children is how are the children's needs being met? What's in the best interest of the child? Doesn't matter whether you're in child protection proceedings, whether you are in or just regular family court. That's what the test is that the court's doing. If you're in criminal court, that's not what the test is. The test is whether you've committed a crime or not. And obviously false allegations, you hope, don't lead to a criminal conviction. But in family court, it's not about whether you did something or not. It's what the children's needs are, what the best interests of the children are. And the conflict often distracts everybody from that. So the first thing to do is to remain focused on your child, the best interest of your child or your children. Don't get sucked into fighting about stuff that doesn't really matter. Now, we often talk about, I'll bend what I said a little bit before about, and this isn't going to be about courtroom techniques, but I can tell you this, that proving that somebody is a liar is, well, it might seem like that's what the goal is. It's actually not, because if you prove that somebody lied about the weather and the weather doesn't matter at all to determining what's in the best interest of the child, the court's just going to ignore it, or they're just not going to let the court is going to say, well, who cares? So somebody was wrong about the weather. How much court time, how much valuable court time are we going to spend dealing with something that just doesn't matter? Court's going to say, we're not going there. So remember that attacking a lie has to be a lie that is relevant to the best interest of the children test. Okay? So let me see if I can. Now, what kind of lies happen in family court? Well, domestic violence claims are probably the biggest ones. Obviously, if there's without evidence, we probably could have taken the words without evidence. A domestic violence claim, whether there's evidence or not, is not the issue. Is it true? Is it not true? If it's not true, it can be true without evidence. That's what I'm trying to say. You can have a domestic violence claim that is true. And when we talk about, well, what's evidence? Well, a statement that such and such happened on such and such a date, that's evidence. It doesn't have to have corroborating evidence, which is things like, a police report, for example. Obviously, if there's a police report, it might help the claim, but it doesn't necessarily mean there's no evidence, because somebody just saying, hey, it happened, is enough evidence. Whether it's good evidence or not, well, the court may or may not believe it. That's where some credibility comes into it. That's where some courtroom techniques come into play. But remember, you don't have to have documented evidence like a police report. Evidence can be as simple as somebody standing up and saying, this is what happened, okay? Obviously, other kinds of lies that happen, or false misrepresentations or false allegations that come up in family court are exaggerated or false parenting time disputes or misrepresentations about what the person's doing. Or here's another good one. It's not on the slide here, but it's little Johnny said that he doesn't want to go see daddy, or he doesn't want to go see mommy. And the other parent says, well, that's what the child said. Well, number one, we have a rule about that. That's a hearsay rule. So the judges hate hearing that because it's so easy to get a child to say almost anything. That's one problem. And when you start doing that, it means that you're having some kind of conversation with the child that's probably not in the child's best interest. So you say, hey, well, little Johnny says he doesn't want to go back to mommy's house, and you've got the child with you. The court is going to say, well, wait, why are you having this conversation with this child? So yeah, you hear it and you go, like, I got to tell somebody, you got to be careful that's not the way to present that evidence to the court. And so the same thing can be said if because it's too easy to be false, essentially. Okay, so what happens if the other parent is making that allegation? Well, it's a hearsay problem, right? And here's where you say, okay, well, how do we solve that hearsay problem? Well, one way to do it is to say, get a voice of the child report, a PN's practice note 7 report, have somebody go in and interview the child and report to the court what it is that the child is actually saying. This is a neutral person, a lawyer or a social worker goes in and interviews the child. Well, that's fine if the child's older, 10, 11, 12 years old, 13, 14. But the child's younger than that, why are we asking the child where they should be going? Because that's, how can we rely on what they're saying, right? There's all sorts of problems with that. The child's older than that, well, it's all well and good to ask them what they're saying, but probably it doesn't matter anyways because they're just going to vote with their feet. So other areas of lies or misrepresentations about finances or lifestyle or character. One of the things that shows up is misrepresentations about, say, what money is being spent on. There's an expensive gift that's been purchased on a credit card, and the gift doesn't appear to have been something within the context of the marriage or the relationship. And so somebody said, okay, well, that's a problem because what this gift is about is for, somebody that somebody's having an affair with. It probably doesn't matter. And if you go to start dealing with that allegation, whether it's, if it's true, well, just own up to it. If it's not true, you just say, well, what does this matter, right? If you get defensive about it and say, well, no, it's actually something else, who cares? And so that's one of the questions. You got to say, well, who cares about that, okay? Again, one of the other things that happens is people are so, they think the court is about, the court rewards good people. The court sides with good people and punishes bad people. No, the court is not concerned with that. It is probably another. Oops, there we go. There we go. Here's why do people lie? I'm going to skip that for now. Okay, so many people believe the trials or the court process is about proving character. I got to somehow prove to the court that I'm a good person. The other person is a bad person. Or the other person is trying to say, I'm a bad person, and they're this angel. None of that really matters. The court is only considering the actions and behaviors of the parents. The court is not making moral judgments or character judgments unless they're relevant to a particular fact that's important. So if somebody's lying about some material fact, the court is going to take that into account and say, well, that person's lying about that fact. And if they do it enough, I suppose they're going to say, well, we can't believe anything they say. But that's because the court is trying to figure out what the truth is of the facts that are important to the case. They're not trying to determine whether somebody is a good person or a bad person. So a lot of the lies that come out, a lot of the false allegations are about things that are intended to somehow impugn or criticize somebody's character. And you just kind of ignore it if you can, right? Because what happens is when you're dealing with that stuff, you start to get defensive and you somehow say, no, I'm a good person. And it's the other person that's bad. Doesn't make any difference at all. Okay? Now, they say, and as they say, claims that matter, behaviors and actions with legal consequences. The claims that don't matter are opinions or moral criticisms. You call somebody a narcissist, or you call this and that, you stick some kind of label on them. Well, number one, unless you are a therapist or somebody who's got qualifications to do that kind of assessment, and the other person has agreed to have you do that assessment, you got no business giving that opinion. Court doesn't need your opinion. The court wants facts. Okay, so somebody's claiming that you're a narcissist or that you've got some kind of moral failing, just ignore it, because what your lawyer should be saying is, well, that's their opinion. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. Doesn't matter. Okay, now. So we've got real examples of false allegations. He hit me, no police report or witnesses. Yeah, it could still be true. Now, obviously, we can say, as that's a relevant thing. We can say, well, hey, there's no police report here. There's no witnesses. Then we can't say it must not be true, but it starts to, as one of the ways you start bringing down the level of credibility here. Now, there might be lots of reasons why there's no police report or witnesses. Oftentimes in family disputes, for example, there are no witnesses, and that's a problem. No police report. Well, it could be quite simple. No police report because the person was afraid to make a police report because they were afraid of escalating it. Now, that's if it's true. What if it's not true? Well, the ones that are not true are often the ones where there is a police report, because they're trying to set it all up and everything. But having the police report doesn't make it true. Having no police report might not make it true. But obviously, examples of domestic violence are often important because the courts do not like seeing the kids exposed to violence, and so that's why that is relevant. Now, other allegations, false allegations that can be made in the family law situation says, oh, she never lets me see the kids. Well, great. Well, what if you're the one that's not showing up, right? She says, I've got the kids here ready to go, and you don't show up. And so, well, is that false? You're not seeing the kids. But so that's where sometimes you can get some false allegations that he's not abiding by the rules. So what you have to do is you say, okay, just take notes, keep notes of when things happen, and if you've got parenting time and you can't make it, then you show up. If you can't make parenting time, something you could the other person notice, right? This is decent behavior. That's how you counter a false allegation. You say, okay, I'm here. I'm ready to have some parenting time. They don't have the kids here. Your kids are not here. Now you've got this documented, okay? They're saying that you refuse to show up. Well, you just got to show up. So anyways, She's unstable. Again, that's a character thing. It doesn't matter. You can call somebody unstable, but if they're meeting their responsibilities, obviously it's a false allegation. And again, we're talking about the character attacks, not relevant at all. Okay. Opinions without evidence do not hold weight in court. Opinions, in fact, opinions just are generally speaking, unless you are an expert properly qualified, the court doesn't really want to hear your opinion. They don't want to hear your argument. They want to hear the facts, because the facts, and then and that's really what you want to do, because what you want the judge to do is hear a bunch of facts and go, wow, that sounds like this person would be a great parent, or wow, that sounds like the other party is not telling me the truth. But you do that by setting out the facts and the actions. You don't say they're a bad person. You don't try to attack their character. You focus on the facts. Okay? Said this before. Courts don't reward good people or punish bad people. The courts focus on facts, on actions, on patterns of behavior that predict future behavior. I mean, you can't really, judges are in a difficult position. They got to make a decision to resolve a conflict, and they want to do that on the basis of the best evidence, the best they're able to tell what's really going on. And a lot of that is just, quite frankly, just common sense. They got to apply it. There's no way we don't have some massive recording machine recording everything that goes on in the world, every movement of the molecules of everybody's life, and we just press a replay button and we can tell exactly what happened. Totally impossible. Our memories don't work that way. We can never remember things exactly as they happened. And so the court is going to kind of apply common sense to figure out what's likely to have happened. Okay? So here's another thing to point out. Reacting emotionally to a criticism can undermine your credibility. So there's a good example that's been told to me that the wife was going on and on about how the husband was having an affair, and he was not paying attention to the children, and total false allegation. And it was kind of funny because as it was related to me, the husband's response was, well, that's perhaps wife could tell me the name of this person so I can remember to get them a gift for Christmas. So it was a way to use a little bit of humor and say, like, this is news to me, right? And leave it at that, because and then the judge might turn to this person and say, well, what's the proof of this? Well, he probably has somebody he's giving money to, whatever, or spending time with, and then it goes nowhere, right? So reacting emotionally can undermine your credibility. Sometimes reacting just in some way to say, look, you can accuse me of something, but if I know that it's not true, I don't need to react. The reaction, when you get overly defensive, is often interpreted as, well, that pushed a button there. There must be some truth to it. And so you're better off just not reacting emotionally. Now, if the criticism is correct, well, why not acknowledge it? Why not say, yeah, that's a problem I've had, and this is what I've done to address it? Much better off doing that, because now the court is saying, wow, this is somebody who's realistic. They're recognizing that they've got flaws. Nobody's perfect. They've made mistakes. They're learning from their mistakes. The court appreciates that. you try to say, look, I'm perfect, I don't do anything, I make no mistakes in life, court says, everybody makes mistakes. So you don't win by saying you're completely denying everything, every allegation. That's you don't win by denying a true allegation. You're better off just dealing with the truth. Okay. Again, we talked about this before. You don't win by retaliating. You stay grounded in facts. And there's an old saying, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. And it really is an important point that this is the way I approach cases. This speaks to integrity, right? Integrity that you don't win by being a bully. You win by saying, what are the facts? These are the facts, and you don't stray. You don't add in false allegations. You don't, if there's false allegations against you, you counter them with evidence, not with attacks, not with attacks on their credibility. But if it's a fact that's relevant, you say, this is in fact, like say for example, here's an example. Person says, they left all the housework to me. And you say, well, actually, that's not true, because this is the kinds of meals I prepared. These are the favorite meals of the child. This is the food the child doesn't eat. And every so often we go out to McDonald's. Right? And now the other side talks to the lawyer. The lawyer says, well, is that true? Well, yeah, it's kind of true. Now you've taken now you've given some meat or a picture. You're painting a picture that's based on facts, not just a bald accusation is what we call it. An accusation that has no facts. You counter it with facts. Now, again, consistency in your actions, your communications, your evidence. Again, always stay focused on your child, not on attacking your ex. Attacking your ex, the judges don't care about that stuff. They see it day in and day out. They don't want to hear it. What they are looking for is maturity and emotional control, because that is what's going to be in the best interest of the child. So don't lose your in court. Stay cool, stay calm, show maturity. Don't respond to all of the false allegations that are being made against you, because they're false. They don't. Here's another way of saying it. Don't give a false allegation more attention than it deserves. If it's false, yeah, whatever. You can say whatever you want. It's not true. There's a material fact. Here's the actual facts. If this is a material issue, rather, if this is a solid issue that needs to be addressed, here's what really might happen. I don't know, whatever she's thinking, maybe she's or he is maybe they're mistaken, maybe they weren't. Who knows? Why are they saying this stuff? I don't know why they're saying this. This is what happened. Okay? Don't attack the other person. Okay. Now, obviously, this is just good general advice. Got a high conflict situation, keep clear timelines, written records, make notes of it. Now, when you're making notes about events, it's important to focus on the facts, not on your interpretation of the facts. You don't say, this is one more example of how crazy the other person is, or how they're lying, and go on to this long explanation to show how they're lying. No, stick to the facts and leave it at that. Your lawyer will thank you in spades for having clear written records that deal just with the facts. Picked up the children such and such a time. We did this. I gave them meals, returned them at such and such a time. This is what happened. and not make any character assassination comments about the other person. That's how you counter allegations against you. Okay. Use tools like Our Family Wizard or Talking Parents. These are apps that you can get that will allow for a good, solid documentation of the communication between you and your ex, so you don't have to have allegations. Yeah, he called me up and he called me every other name under the sun. He said, look, I never call. We just do all of our communication through Our Family Wizard. Easy peasy. I don't know what she's talking about. If she was talking to somebody on the phone who's calling her names, wasn't me, because I don't talk to her. I just use the Our Family Wizard. Okay. You can use these tools to store your messages and things like that. If you, and this is in a high conflict situation, and you got to be careful about this. Keep that the note taking and the recording. Keep that out of the. You keep the kids isolated from that. They don't need to see you writing down. They don't need to be looking over your shoulder as you're going on about everything that's wrong with your everything that's happened because you want to win in court. The kids don't need to see that. Okay. Again, no venting, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. As one famous TV character said years and years ago. That's probably showing my age. My apologies if you don't know the reference. Legal consequences of lying in court. Perjury is a criminal offense. Yes, we all know that. False allegations can be punished with cost awards or parenting time reversals. Yeah, I'm going to say, look, perjury, don't get hung up on perjury as a way to deal with this stuff, because it's a criminal offense, which means you've got a high standard of proof. You got to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the person has committed perjury, knowing they committed a false statement. And that doesn't get you your children. It doesn't get you any advantage in the family law proceedings. So, yes, perjury is a criminal offense, but let the dust settle. Make sure you got your kids, and then consider whether this is really something that deserves your time. Now, I gotta say, that's kind of my view. It may rise to the level that you have to deal with it, or it ought to be dealt with, because this is, you got a repeat offender. They're doing it with one relationship, then they're doing it with the next relationship. Talk to your lawyer about it. I don't want to take it off the table, but don't fixate on the person committing perjury. Obviously, it's a criminal offense. Perjury is false testimony. Okay, false allegations can be punished with cost awards or parenting time reversals. Again, you might get a cost award. Parenting time reversal is a really big deal, and it's only going to be reserved for those times that the false allegations really go to the core of the parent-child relationship. So now the last point, judges will remember dishonest conduct in future hearings. I think that's probably true. And you don't want that kind of stuff building up. And again, if you're going to try to raise that in the future, I'll go back here. If you want to try to raise the dishonest conduct in future hearings, you got to be careful, because is this something that is important for what the judge has to decide now? Because the judge is going to say, like, I'm not going to try to sort out what was true or what lies were made back then. And I know this can be really frustrating for people, because they go, wait, they got this order because they lied. Well, yeah, but the courts are saying, look, even if we could go back and sort that stuff out, that's not what we're faced with today. So you got to remember, and this is where it really helps to have a lawyer, because what you want to do is make sure that you're dealing with an issue that the judge is going to see is important, and you're not just trying to attack the other party's character. Okay, so yeah, it's true. Judges will remember dishonest conduct. Question is, do you remind them of that or not? That's where you need to get some view of a lawyer. Okay, again, trying to prove they're a liar instead of presenting clear facts. What we have is this: the rule in court. if you got two versions of the facts that are set out in affidavits, and the fact is important for a decision that the judge has to make, judge is going to say, look, I can't make this decision, got to go to a trial. You get up on the witness stand, each party gets up the witness stand, and the judge looks them in the eye as they're making a statement, and they say, and the judge then says, you know what, I'm not sure I believe you. I'm going to prefer their testimony or your testimony over the other person's testimony. That happens in a trial. Again, stick to the facts. Emotional texting, ranting, violating court orders because you somehow see justified in it, not how you're going to win this on this, okay? Assuming the court knows the whole truth without documentation, you can't make assumptions about what the court knows or doesn't know, okay? When to bring in your lawyer before responding to allegations, particularly if you're getting allegations that you know are false and you're getting that emotional reaction, talk it through with a lawyer, right? Get it out in the presence of the lawyer, not in the presence of the judge, right? Again, affidavits have got to follow certain rules, so get a lawyer to help you draft or review affidavits. Lawyer can also provide you with strategic coaching before a major hearing, and this is all if you don't need full representation to get if you're trying to represent yourself, you can get a lawyer to help with any of those three things here. Okay. Yeah, so things that can help deal with lies is parenting assessments, practice note 7, practice note 8. How you draft the affidavits can be helpful. Pressing the other side for disclosure of documents that would likely disprove the facts that they're saying. Again, the goal, and I throw this in here, judicial dispute resolution, that doesn't deal with facts per se, but it does help you get to resolution, and throw that one in there. Again, you want to keep, and I say this over and over and over again, communications in family law situations got to be neutral, brief. I call it the rule of 3. There's other ways of describing it. Say what it's about. Say what the other person needs to know. Now, you're not trying to argue the point. You're not trying to say, look, you need to agree to this because, you've been an idiot in the past and you got to stop being an idiot, so therefore do it my way. No, you say, this is the issue that needs to be decided. This is the facts that are important for that decision. This is what I'd like you to do. And then they don't do the right thing. You can't control that. They do the wrong thing. You can use it. And now you've got clear, documented communications that deal with the issue. All right. So again, summary, key takeaways. People lie to get what they want at your expense. Yeah. Don't fight fire with fire. Respond with truth. Stay calm. Evidence wins. Emotion loses. Credibility is your best shield in court. And how do you get credibility? Because you're focused on the facts that are relevant to the key issue, which is what's in the best interest of the child. Judges respect calm, cooperative parents, even if the other party doesn't. So there you go. All right. So contact the Canadian Centre for Men and Families, Alberta, for resources and guidance if you're facing false allegations. They don't provide legal advice. If you contact them, you can get a referral to a lawyer. I'm not the only lawyer that helps out CCMF, but you can get a referral for a half-hour consultation. Again, document everything, dates, times, emails, text, voicemails. Stay focused on the facts. Stay calm, stay organized, stay focused on your children. And I would throw in there when the parents communicate, the child wins. Yeah, it's hard to communicate sometimes if the other side is making false allegations. Don't respond emotionally to those allegations. Just whatever. Focus on the facts that are important to the child. Okay. So, hey, we got some social stuff. Facebook page. I think Catherine might put some of this stuff in the text. We got CCMF Alberta, Instagram, CCMF Alberta, X.com, whatever that is. I think it's formerly Twitter. Anyway, so uh, Fair Legal has a LinkedIn page, YouTube page. A lot of these videos go up on YouTube. You can check those out. Sorry, a shameless plug here. We've got another webinar coming up Thursday, June 12th. Subscribe to YouTube. You can view this and all previous and future webinars. You get resources and tips. If you're signed up with CCMF, they will provide you information about the next webinar. If there's a topic that you want us to talk about, put it in the text messages. Let CCMF know. Sometimes we rearrange our schedule and we try to accommodate what's kind of pressing issues that people are interested in at the particular time. So it's your turn. Ask questions. I'm sorry I've been talking maybe a little too much. Ask questions, address concerns. Catherine's going to read out your questions. I see in the chat, I see 10. So Catherine, take it away. I know I've been talking a little much. Hopefully we can get some time in here for some questions.
Not a problem. Most of those in the chat are mine, but I do have one.
Oh, okay.
I do have one,
Okay.
and I apologize. I'm dealing with a cough, so I'll try to work my way through it. I'm going to paraphrase. This one is long from Anonymous. So it looks like they're going to get My Family Wizard and they're going to follow your advice and document everything. But what about in the last year when they weren't documenting? What should he do?
Well, you've got to be really careful. Again, when we're talking about, remember, false allegations may not be evil. Let me explain. It just seems to be a human tendency that if somebody says a mistruth, shall we say, is something that is not true, we tend to say that other person's a liar, they're nasty, they're evil. But if we say something that's not true, oh, we were just mistaken. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was that way. You see the problem? So if you're going to deal with the past, ask yourself, look, am I really remembering this correctly? And approach it with a little bit of humility, because you might be making a mistake and you don't want to be shown to be making a false allegation if the other side's got really good records. So you say, look, as best as I can recall, this is what happened. I may be wrong. I think is a better strategy.
Okay. Let's go to, here's one for me. Are past webinars posted anywhere, please? Yes, all past webinars, including the series from a few years back, are posted on Charles' YouTube channel. If you look in the chat, there's a link to the YouTube. Please do subscribe and do put comments, because if you have topics, that's the best way to see what topics you're interested in. Because Charles and I always talk about, okay, what are people asking for? And if we don't know what you want, we're going to continue doing what we do, and we want to hear what you want. So please go to the YouTube and let us know. This one, by the way, this one will be up on, I think, Saturday.
Okay.
All right, number 2. Can you comment about, oh gosh, sorry, this is very small text. I'm just getting very close to it. Can you comment about coercive abuse? How does one defend coercive abuse being shortened to reputation destroying abuse?
I'm not actually sure what you mean by coercive abuse.
This is from Peter. Peter in red. Do you mind adding a little more context for us so that Charles can answer that question for you? And we're going to move on to Anonymous. Are voice recordings as evidence viewed negatively by judges, such as entrapment?
Ooh, well, Uh, hmm. You know, I mentioned earlier that you got to be really careful about seeing that stuff. Um, you know, the law, if I might be wrong on this, but as the law as I understand it, I know I'm a lawyer, I know all that, but you know, he said, well, if if one person is recording a conversation that they are participating in, that's legal. Yeah, okay. If you leave a recording device in the other person's home, even if it's your own home and you're not there, that's illegal. Um, Now, both of those situations may capture evidence that is relevant for the court's consideration, but I'm going to tell you that the judges don't like it. Okay? The illegal one, the recording when you're not there, that can get you criminally charged. And while you might, if you capture something really juicy, you know, it actually, I had a case like that where um, my client had been recorded saying something very, very, very bad to my client's child. And the other side was able to get an emergency protection order. At the end of the day, after considerable legal time and court time and ending up in the Court of Appeal, it didn't matter at all. And the recording didn't get the other person's what the other person wanted. So recording, the problem is it can really, it can, it's not as reliable as you think, because you're saying, I'm secretly recording, so I know how to push the other person's buttons, and I'm going to push their buttons, and they're going to react. And the judge is going, so what did you do just before you started pressing the recording button? What did you do after you turned the recording button off? You see, you know, the way to reduce conflict is not by engaging in things that are about, you know, trying to entrap the person or you know, get something against them. You know, focus on the kids, because the recording, you know, unless it's really, really bad, which unfortunately for my client's case, it was bad. So, you know, um, you got to use it judiciously, I think, you know. Everybody holding their cameras up, recording. I'm recording you, and the kids are seeing this. Like, seriously, judge is not going to be happy with that.
Mhm. All right. So we have another one by Anonymous. Before separation, I had luckily recorded my videos with my daughter, and anyone seeing those videos can say there was a strong bond between us. I'm a victim of parental alienation. When is the best time to show these videos to the court? Will the court give weight on those videos? Charles, you just went mute. I think your battery just gave out. Just give us a moment, everybody. He'll be right back.
How's that?
Perfect.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so yeah, first off, it's hard to attach a video to an affidavit. The only time you get to play a video is in court, and the court is probably not going to care, because the video is a tiny slice of reality. Well, it's it may be true that you have a strong bond with your daughter and the video shows it, but what if that was only a tiny fraction of the time and you just happen to luck out and get a video? So it's not as persuasive as you might think. And that's why the judge is going to go, yeah, okay, whatever. So, you know, I've had situations where somebody comes to me and says, you know, can I show this picture of, really bad diaper rash, for example? We're talking about a picture and say, well, the other parent is not, not properly cleaning the child or not changing their diaper frequently. It just doesn't have the impact that you would think it would have. Okay? Just a picture. Life happens. Does that make sense? So,
Yes.
yeah. So, again, videos can get attached to affidavits. They have to be in a trial. You want to solve the problem way before trial. Playing it for, a parenting expert, somebody who's doing a practice note 7, may say, hey, look, you look at this video. Does this help you kind of see the kind of relationship you had? Maybe you have some more questions to ask about it, and not saying, see, this video proves that I had a good relationship. No, it should invite some further questions that an expert might have. Okay.
All right, last question. Mediation question. How do you focus on kids when the alienator is triggered and irrational, refuses visitation, etc.?
Well, if you're in mediation is, it's, a lot of people think, the trial process is about getting to the truth. It's not. It's only partially about getting to the truth. It's about getting to resolution. That's even more so in mediation. And it's important. I hate to say this. This is going to sound so woke, but if 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 somebody has got their experience of their reality is X, mediation is a good opportunity for them to express that. Listen to it without judgment, right? Ask questions, clarify. Why are they feeling that way? Is there, would they be interested in having a further discussion about how the situation arose? I mean, it's hard to think about examples, but mediation is not a place to try to get at the truth. And sometimes it's just helpful to allow somebody to speak about what their experience are, what they're feeling, and in that process, remember the goal, especially in family law, is the relationship with your children, not proving that somebody's a liar. The goal is to reduce the conflict. Try to find areas of agreement. Demonstrate to the judge that you are a responsible parent. Demonstrate that you don't react to the other person's nonsense. Demonstrate that you remain calm, cool, and collected, no matter how crazy the other person seems, no matter how outrageous their reactions are. I hate to say it, it seems like it's a hard thing to do. Take a deep breath. And I got to say, that's why it's really helpful to get outside, the view of an outsider. Best if it's a lawyer that has a clue about what they're doing. Sorry, strike that. That didn't come out quite right. A lawyer can help you see what a case is going to look like from a judge's perspective. They're going to help you see what the case looks like from a practice note 7 or practice note 8 assessor. So it's good to talk to that person. Is it really important? Is this a fight that's worth having, right? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't.
Okay, that is it for questions today.
Okay.
For more information about CCMF programs, please visit CCMF, ccmfalberta.ca programs, and you can arrange a 30-minute consultation at no charge. Also, if you happen to be listening from outside of Alberta, I've also dropped the link down for CCMF Canada, and you can go through that link for services in your area.
Great. Excellent.
Any parting words for our viewers tonight?
Well, I do want to do another shout out. I often do this after Vanessa gives her introduction. CCM is it's a pleasure being asked to assist CCMF with these. It's really good to have a supportive network around you. One of the red flags that courts see is if a parent is socially isolated. That means that they're higher risk. So this is so important. Get the support of CCMF. Yeah, sign up for the legal advice. Yeah, that's less important. But getting that support is really important. CCMF does good work in that respect. So it's always a pleasure helping out that. Yeah, and all I can do is say if you're running through these kinds of issues in your case, and wish you all the best. Try to get as much assistance as you can. Stay focused on your kids. That's my parting words.
And for the two people who put in their questions late, we do have to end the video at this point, but there will be a series of questions that didn't make the videos that Charles will be answering at future times. These will likely be shorts. So you'll find those on YouTube, and you'll find some of them also on the website. Thank you very much.
Great, super. Thank you.
Have a good night.